Kobe Bryant. He took, when I was coaching in Orlando, one summer he took his family on vacation to Disney World, and he was having trouble finding a place to work out. He called our general manager, Otis Smith, and said, hey, can I come up to your practice facility in the mornings and work out? I'll get up there around 5:30 or 6 in the morning. I'll be gone before your players come in. I just need a place to work out. I mean, it's a good 45 minutes, as you know, Brian. You've been there, up to the old practice facility. And he would come in the mornings for like 4 days and work out at that time of the morning to be back to take his family. He wouldn't even take a 4-day vacation in the summer. You know, that's when you knew, like, this is a different guy here, and beating him is going to be really, really hard.
Obviously, the NBA is reacting to this news as we are right now. I sort of feel like we shouldn't be playing basketball today, to be honest. I don't know where you guys stand on this. I can't imagine a lot of players are going to be real focused if they're out there.
But I think there's 16 teams that aren't going to feel like playing today. Everyone that's scheduled. You know, like Brian said, for these guys of this age, this was the guy they grew up on, a true icon. There have been a lot of great players in this league, but there are very few iconic guys. You know, AI, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaq, you know, I mean, that's of this generation. These are the guys that you're talking about, that these guys grew up on. And it's not like this icon died at 65 and has been out of the league for 20 years and it's expected. It's too soon. I mean, way too soon. He's a young guy, and like Brian said, he was transitioning to having great success making films and in business, and he's a guy these guys loved. None of them are going to feel like playing today. It's going to be interesting to see what the league decides to do.
And to your point about his youth, he has not yet been enshrined in the Basketball Hall of Fame, which will surely now happen posthumously in September. I think the ceremony's in September, because this is the first year of eligibility in a very high-profile class that he is in. You see the career numbers. It was just last night that LeBron James passed him for third all-time on the career scoring list. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, that was his last tweet. Not that that's the, message of record necessarily, but that was his last tweet, was congratulating LeBron James on passing him for number 3. Just happened last night, and now reports again appear to indicate that Kobe Bryant is dead at the age of 41 due to a helicopter crash near Calabasas, California, just north of Los Angeles. You came into the Lakers when he had already started to establish himself as a star in the league, a young star, but a good young player. Do you remember the first time you really met and got to know who he was?
Yeah, I mean, I met him, prior to that, like I said, when he was a little kid, when I played a year over in Italy, and I played against his father.
Right.
But coming to the Lakers, I came in 99-2000 season when Phil Jackson's first year. And ironically, I made the team because he broke his hand at that time. They had 14 guaranteed players on the roster, and I didn't come to camp because I didn't have a guarantee. I was 11 years in the league, and their first preseason game, Kobe actually broke his hand. Phil Jackson called me. I was in Oakland just working out, and he said, you got 8 weeks to make me cut somebody else on our team while Kobe's hand is healing. And that's actually my story of how I got to the team. But like I said, it was you knew that there was something different in his work ethic, for one. And one of the things that Stan just talked about was the early morning sessions, that he had. And many times as a coaching staff and coaching him, we would get to the gym at 8 o'clock in the morning to have our coaches meetings, and Kobe had already had a 2-hour session working, and being a full sweat from having his own individual workout before we even got to practice and things of that nature. I want to take a step back for a second and and try to help some of those who feel like I feel right now. I try to, as a man who, I'm 53 years old, and I've dealt with a lot of death in my time. And one of the things that has helped me deal with, my family died in a car accident in 1993. One of the things that kept me going is the fact that while they were here, we lived and we made a lot of memories together. And when they're gone, that's all that you have are the memories that you made while they were here. And for those Kobe fans that are out there that are feeling like I feel right now, just try and think of all the joy that he brought you, making the highlights that you remember. For all the Laker fans, that the championships that he brought, that put smiles on your faces, those are memories that you're going to have to rely on going forward. And as sad a moment as it may be right now, we were blessed to have such a talented player to bring us the amount of joy and happiness, especially, like I said, for Laker fans and NBA fans as a whole, to have this guy for as long as we did and to be able to witness his greatness on the court, his popularity overseas in China, a guy that can speak fluent Italian and Spanish and other languages. It was a blessing for us to even have him as long as we were able to have him.
That's well put. The Nuggets and Rockets will play, we are told, coming up in about 20 minutes' time. We expect a moment of silence at minimum. I don't know what kind of basketball we're going to get between these two teams. It's hard to imagine they'll be very focused on a day like this. But Brian makes an excellent point about Kobe Bryant, the person that he was. By basketball standards, a very unusual background, first of all, having grown up in Italy for much of his childhood, fluent speaker in Italian. He was pretty ahead of the curve in terms of his love for soccer as a result of playing in Europe. The rest of the country's kind of caught up to him in that regard, but this was not someone as focused as he was on basketball. This was not someone who was myopic in terms of basketball because he had lots of interests outside, business interests. He won an Oscar just last year for his part producing a short film. This was a complex individual.
Yeah, and you carry a huge burden when you're the kind of icon that he was, the kind of hero he was to an entire generation of people who either played or watched the sport. That's a heavy burden. Every day you go out there, people look at that as such a great thing and such an easy thing, and the money and the fame and all of that, but it brings with it such responsibility and pressure and scrutiny that we can't even imagine on a daily basis, and he was always up to the task.
Again, if you're just with us or you're learning via Twitter and have found us here on NBA TV, Kobe Bryant has reportedly died in a helicopter accident at the age of 41 just outside of Calabasas, California, just north of Los Angeles. One of 5 passengers aboard that chopper, none of whom have survived. The LA County Sheriff's Department has confirmed that a helicopter crashed with 5 aboard. Other outlets, a number of them now, too many to name here, have reported that Kobe Bryant was aboard that chopper and has left us at the age of 41. Games, as far as we know, are still being played today, including the one that we are scheduled to air for you in about 15 minutes' time between the Houston Rockets and the Denver Nuggets. And again, we don't know what kind of basketball we're going to get out of this. It's going to be a surreal afternoon for the players who are out there trying to concentrate. So many of them grew up on Kobe Bryant. Is this video or is this sound of Austin Rivers? It's this Austin Rivers' reaction, and you can see the emotion in his face as he learns what a lot of us have learned over the last hour or so. Amazingly, Kobe Bryant, in the year in which he is to be first formally nominated, that's a foregone conclusion, and voted in, also a foregone conclusion, and ultimately enshrined into the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, is gone at the age of 41. Just in terms of the basketball part, I always felt like Kobe at his prime was just one of the great shot makers in NBA history. He had a bunch of moves, and it seemingly came back with different ones each and every season. There was a period in which he developed his left hand and was shooting with incredible efficiency around the rim with his left hand. But as a coach, how much did he keep you on your toes in terms of what else he might have?
Well, Brian knows because he was there as part of the team beating the heck out of us in the 2009 finals in Orlando. And I can't tell you how many times in that way too short series of 5 games that he made shots and I turned around to my bench and said to my assistants, man, that was good defense. You know, Courtney Lee was a rookie and playing him tough and getting a hand up on every shot, not giving him airspace. I mean, those are what the great players do, is they score even when the defense is outstanding. And he was just a guy almost impossible to stop because of his ability to make such difficult shots.
And I think, you know, for myself, being a role player on those first three championships in the early 2000s, when you walked on the court, you know, and I had the fortune of being able to walk on the court with Kobe and with Shaq. For a player like myself, it made me feel invincible and feel like I was a better player because I was walking, you know, knowing who I was going to war with, and that when it came down to it, you know, especially in the end of the games when big shots and big plays needed to be made, that you had this guy here who was not only willing to take those shots and make those plays, but somebody that was able to do it as well. And, you know, many times, like just being in a situation and being able to ask him, you know, when we go to you at the end of the games, how do you know what you're going to do? And he always answered, well, I just pick a spot on the floor. And I know that that's where I want to get to. And I know that I can take 1 or 2 dribbles and get to that spot. The defense doesn't know where I want to go. And that I've practiced that shot so many times that it's not a big shot. It's just another shot. And so, you know, I've done it so many times that it's just part of my muscle memory, and it's gonna come to me. And so even as a young player, and I was an older player, you know, I was able to learn so much from him and his mentality, just from being around him and being able to pick his brain. And then, you know, when you think about it, he was a trendsetter also in a lot of ways. He was the first guy that I remember, you know, when Michael Jordan made bald heads kind of an in thing. Kobe, you know, when he was wearing number 8, was the first one that kind of went to the afro. Or back to the afro, I should say. And then, you know, now you see the hairstyles that you see in the NBA, and a lot of them are influenced by, you know, the guys that we talked about that grew up on Kobe. The way that he dressed, the apparel that he wore, you know, the arm sleeves and things of that nature, and then obviously his shoe still to this day is one of the most popular shoes that the players wear in the game right now. And, you know, and this is, you know, 4 years after he's retired, and so. His effects and stamp and impact will be a part of this game forever going forward.
The word icon is way overused, well overused, but in the context of basketball, certainly, and I would say he transcended basketball. Kobe Bryant certainly was iconic. One of the few athletes out there who can relate to his level of celebrity. Tom Brady has weighed in as well. There aren't many human beings, frankly, who could understand the position that Kobe Bryant occupied in terms of his place in the league and his place in society and culture. Jamal Crawford and so many other NBA players are expressing their shock and dismay, as we did as well. It's just hard to grasp someone as vital and as young as Kobe Bryant, less than 4 years removed from that 60-point game that ended his career against the Utah Jazz, is gone at the age of 41. What did you get to learn? You know, we talked about how focused he was at basketball. What did you find about Kobe in your years with him as a player and as a teammate, as a coach, about him when he did step away from basketball, when he thought about other things?
Well, I don't know that he ever really completely stepped away from the game. I mean, I think it was just a part of who he was. But that mentality that he had, it carried over into every other facet of life.
He just shifted to other areas.
Yeah. You know, you know, that's who he was. I mean, he wanted to rip your throat out as an opponent, if you were a teammate of his and you showed weakness in practice or in a game, you might as well have been an opponent too. I mean, you know, because he's going to come after you. And so he just he took that to, you know, whether it was a card game, you know, anything, you know, outside of the game, he was relentless in his discipline to be the best. And I think that's, you know, for him to win a Grammy and do some of the things that he's done after his basketball career, it just kind of goes to show he took that work ethic and he was able to cross over and do it in other areas.
We're going to take you to a moment that just happened in Denver, a moment of silence. We're going to take you there in just a minute or so to Denver, where they're going to have a moment of silence, the first of what figures to be at least 8 if all the games are played today around the NBA. We're going to take you to that Rockets-Nuggets game in just a little while. They will play basketball there today, and apparently at this point there are no cancellations that we know of in terms of the rest of the NBA schedule in honor of Kobe Bryant, as the league tries to make sense of the senseless that Kobe Bryant, who traveled via helicopter frequently in and around L.A. going back to his playing days. He used to helicopter from his home in Newport to downtown L.A. on game days, go to shoot around, and usually stay in the city before games. So it was a regular mode of travel for him. Let's take you live now to Denver in a moment of silence.
365 season ticket members, this NBA matchup